Book of Heaven, Volume 20, Part 10. November 21st, 1926. Tenderness of Jesus at the moment of death. How the one who lives in the divine will has primacy over everything. I was feeling all afflicted because of the sudden death of one of my sisters. The fear that my lovable Jesus might not have her with himself tormented my soul. And as my highest good, Jesus, came, I told him of my pain, and he, all goodness, said to me, "My daughter, do not fear. Is there perhaps not my will that makes up for everything, for the very sacraments, and for all the helps that can be given to a poor dying one? Much more so, when there is not the will of the person of not wanting to receive the sacraments and all the helps of the Church, that, like Mother, she gives at that extreme moment. You know, in kidnapping her suddenly from the earth, my will made me surround her with the tenderness of my humanity. My heart, human and divine, placed my most tender fibers into the field of action in such a way that her defects, her weaknesses, her passions have been looked upon and weighed with such finesse of tenderness, infinite and divine. And when I place my tenderness into the field, I cannot help having compassion and letting her pass into a safe harbor as triumph of the tenderness of your Jesus. And besides, don't you know that where human helps are lacking, divine helps abound? You fear that there was no one around her, and that if she wanted help, she had no one from whom to ask for it. Ah, my daughter, in that moment the human helps cease. They have neither value nor effect, because the dying enter into the sole and prime act with their Creator, and to no one is it given to enter this prime act. And then, for the one who is not perverted, a sudden death serves in order to prevent the diabolical action from entering the field. His temptations and the fears that with so much art he strikes into the dying, because he feels them being snatched from him without being able to tempt them or follow them. Therefore, what by men is believed to be disgrace, many times is more than grace. After this I abandoned all of myself in the supreme volition, and my sweet Jesus, resuming his speaking, told me, "My daughter, the one who lives in my will has primacy over everything and over all the acts of creatures. She has her act as first in love before her Creator. So if the other creatures love, the soul who lives in my will is first in loving. The others come, some second, some third, some fourth, according to the intensity of their love. If the other creatures adore me, glorify me, pray me, the soul who lives in my will is first in adoring me, in glorifying me, in praying me. And this is natural, because my will is life and prime act of all creatures. Therefore the one who lives in it finds herself in its prime act, and she is first before God, above all creatures, in doing all of their acts, and in doing all the acts that they do not do. So the sovereign Queen of Heaven, who never gave life to her own will, but had her life fully in my will, holds as though the right of primacy. Therefore, she is first in loving us, in glorifying us, in praying us. If we see that the other creatures love us, it is behind the love of the celestial Queen. If they glorify us and pray us, it is behind the glory and the prayers of she who holds primacy, and therefore empire, over everything. How beautiful it is to see that as creatures love us, she never gives up her first place in love. Even more, she places herself as prime act. She makes her sea of love flow around the Majesty in such a way that the other creatures remain behind the sea of love of the celestial Mama with their little drops of love. And so with all the other acts. Ah, my daughter, to live in my will is one word, but it is a word that weighs as much as eternity. It is a word that embraces everything and everyone. November 23rd, 1926. Threats of chastisements. How the living in the divine will forms the true sun. What this sun is formed of. As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen in my interior, his face leaning out from within my breast, his eyes sparkling with light, looking far away. Within that light, I too looked, and I could see rivers overflowing, seas swelling and going out of their shore, ships being swept away, towns submerged by water, storms carrying away everything which they invested, and many other evils that, while they seemed to take respite in one point, regained their fury in other points. Oh, how frightening it was to see the water, the wind, the sea, the earth, armed by divine justice to strike the poor creatures. So I prayed my highest good that he would placate himself and withdraw the command to make justice, which he had given to these elements. And my sweet Jesus, throwing his arms around my neck and clasping me tightly to himself, made me feel his justice. I felt myself succumbing, and my sweet Jesus, sighing, told me, "My daughter, I can take no more. It is necessary that my justice follow its course. You do not become alarmed at what you see, but rather occupy yourself with the kingdom of the eternal Fiat. I remained in suffering, and afflicted because of the great evils that shall occur. And abandoning myself in the adorable will of my Jesus, I enclosed in it all thoughts, gazes, words, works, steps, and heartbeats, so that all might love and ask together with me that the kingdom of the supreme Fiat may come and be soon established in the midst of the human generations. And my beloved good, resuming his speaking, added, "My daughter, the living in my will forms the true sun between heaven and earth. Its rays, extending down below, invest each thought, gaze, word, work, and step, and binding them with its light, it forms with them a crown around itself, keeping it firm within itself, so that nothing may escape it. Its rays, extending up high, invest the whole of heaven, all the blessed, and binding them all within its light, it lets nothing escape it, so that triumphant the sun may say, 'I enclose everything. I lack nothing of the works of my Creator and of what belongs to him. With my wings of light, I extend over everything. I embrace everyone. I triumph over all, even over my eternal Maker, because in the light of his volition, there is nothing he wants that I do not bring to him. There is no act I do not do for him. There is no love I do not give him. With my wings of light, that my eternal Fiat administers to me, I am the true king, who, investing all, dominates everything. Who can ever resist the solar rays, or free oneself from them when one is outside? The power of the light is irresistible. Wherever it extends, no one can escape its touch, that lapping up against them, gently impresses upon them its kisses of light and of heat, and triumphant, keeps them invested under the impression of its light. There might be some who, ungrateful, do not pay attention to it, nor say a thank you. But the light does not mind even this. Rather, it minds its office of light, and remains firm in giving the good it possesses. More so, since the sun of my will is not like the sun that can be seen in the vault of the heavens, whose sphere of light is limited. If that sphere were so large as to extend so much as to form a second heaven, the earth, in rotating, would keep finding its sun, and therefore darkness and night would not be able to invest the earth. And just as the earth never loses sight of the heavens that extend everywhere, so it would never lose sight of the sun, and it would always be daylight for the earth. Now the sun of my will, its sphere, is not limited, and therefore it possesses its full day. Therefore, the one who lives in it embraces all times, all generations, and investing the acts of all, she forms one single act, one single love, and one single glory for her Creator. But Do you know what this sun of my supreme will is formed of? My attributes are the rays of this sun, that though different among themselves in their qualities and in the office they hold, are light in their substance. And my will, the combining light that assumes all these lights together, is the director of all my attributes. And so, when creatures deserve to be struck, I direct the ray of light of my justice, and defending my rights, it strikes the creatures. November 27th, 1926. How the one who fulfills a mission can be called mother, and in order to be called daughter, the one must be generated in it. How the other sanctities are light, while the sanctity of the divine will is sun. How the foundation of this sanctity is the humanity of our Lord. I was all abandoned in the arms of the adorable will, and I prayed my sweet Jesus to make use of an act of his power, so that the supreme volition might invest the human generations, and binding them to itself, it might form its first children, so longed for by it. And my highest good, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, when one has a special mission, this person is called mother or father. Whoever originates from this fulfilled mission can be called daughter of this mother. True mother means to carry the birth from oneself within one's womb, to form it with one's own blood, to bear pains, sacrifices, and if needed, to expose one's own life in order to give life to the birth from one's womb. And when this birth has matured in one's womb and has come out to the light, then with justice, by right and with reason, this birth is called son, and she who generated him, mother. Therefore, in order to be mother, it is necessary to first form all the members in one's own interior, to generate them in one's own blood, and the acts of these children must be generated from the very heart of their mother. Now, my daughter, in order to be daughter of my will, you have been generated in it. In it you have been formed, and in forming you, the light, the love of my will, more than blood, has grafted in you its ways, its attitude, its operating, making you embrace everyone and everything. This is so true that you, being a birth from it, it calls you now newborn of my will, now its little daughter. Now, only the one who has been generated by it can generate the children of my will. Therefore, you shall be the mother of the generation of its children. And I, my Jesus, what are you saying? I am not good at being daughter. How can I be mother? And Jesus, Yet from you must come the generation of these children. What mother has suffered so much? Who has been confined in a bed for 40 years and more, for the love of forming a birth from herself, and of giving birth to the generation of her children? No one. What mother, as good as she might be, has sacrificed her whole entire existence to the point of enclosing within herself the thoughts, the heartbeats, the works, so that everything might be reordered in the birth that she carried, wanting to give life to it, not once, but as many times, for as many acts as her child does. No one. Do you yourself not feel within yourself the generations of these children? By following their thoughts, words, works, steps, to reorder them all in my will? Do you not feel yourself wanting to give life to each one, as long as they know my will and be regenerated in it? Everything that you do in your interior and that you suffer is nothing other than the formation and the maturation of this birth, all of heaven. This is why I have told you many times, your mission is great. There is no one who can equal it, and highest attention is needed. Then I was feeling oppressed, because it had been written to me that Reverend Father de Francia was having the memories of my childhood printed, as well as everything that follows. And in my sorrow I was saying to my beloved Jesus, my love, look a bit at what they are doing to me. From making known what you have told me about the virtues and about your adorable will, they are now putting what regards myself. At the most, they should be doing this after my death, not now. Only for me there was this confusion and this highest sorrow. For the others, no. Ah, Jesus, give me the strength to do your holy will also in this. And Jesus, clasping me in his arms to give me strength, all goodness, told me, my daughter, do not afflict yourself so much. You must know that the other sanctities are small lights that are formed in the soul, and these lights are subject to growing, to decreasing, and even to becoming extinguished. Therefore, it is not right to put it in print while one is still living in time, before the light is no longer subject to becoming extinguished by passing on to the next life. What impression would one make if it became known that this light no longer exists? On the other hand, the sanctity of living in my will is not light, but sun. Therefore, it is not subject either to becoming poor in light or to becoming extinguished. Who can ever touch the sun? Who can take a single drop of light away from it? No one. Who can extinguish one atom of its heat? Who can make it descend even by 1,000th below its place, from the height at which it reigns and dominates the whole earth? No one. If there were not the son of my supreme Fiat, I would not have allowed them to be printed. The footnote here is referencing Luisa's memories of childhood. But rather, I hasten, because the good that a sun can do cannot be done by a light. In fact, the good of a light is too limited, and neither is it a great good if it is displayed, nor a great harm if it is not permitted to rise. On the other hand, the good of the sun embraces everything. It does good to all, and not letting it rise as early as possible is a great harm. And it is a great good to let it rise even 1 day earlier. Who can tell of the good that a sunny day can produce? Much more so with the sun of my eternal will. So, the greater the delay, the more sunny days are taken away from creatures, and the more days are taken away from the sun, constraining its rays within our celestial fatherland. But in spite of all the saying of Jesus, my oppression continued, and my poor mind was made gloomy by the thought that my poor insignificant existence, that deserved to be buried without anyone noticing that I had been on earth, was to be placed under the eyes and in the hands of who knows how many. My God, what sorrow. But while I was thinking of this, my lovable Jesus made himself seen in my interior, lying flat, as if his holy humanity were acting as foundation in my poor and little soul. And resuming his speaking, he said to me, "My daughter, do not become distracted. Don't you see that the foundation of the kingdom of the eternal Fiat in you is formed by my steps, by my works, by my heart palpitating with love for the honor of my will, by my ardent sighs, and by the burning tears of my eyes? All of my life lies within you to form the foundation. Therefore, it is not befitting that your little work over this foundation, so solid and so holy, be done with distraction, or that praying your rounds in the supreme volition be done as shaded. No, no, my daughter, I do not want this in you. Do not fear. You shall remain buried in the sun of my will. Who, more than it, shall be able to eclipse you in such a way that no one may notice you? The son of the supreme Fiat shall have great care, so that as the little lamp of your soul is surrounded by its rays, the sun may appear in it, while keeping the lamp hidden within itself. Therefore, remain at peace if you want to make your Jesus content. Abandon everything in me, and I shall take care of everything. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 20, Part 10. Fiat.